Hi guys, Nicole here with another Nicole Does Stuff, and I was in the craft store the other day and saw something that looked pretty neat, so I kind of bought it on a whim. What it was were these Mod Podge melts, and they're like glue sticks except they have colors to them, and then you use them in your mini high temp glue gun and squish them into these molds, and then you get little like decorative things that you can glue onto other things, embellishments. And I thought that was a really cool idea. I'm really into steampunk, so I bought the one with a bunch of gears and keys and stuff on it. And Sheba wants to get to the demonstration, so let's get on that. They had many different types of molds there. This is what I decided to go with, the gears and cogs and little clock and some keys and locks. Because, like I said, I'm into the steampunk aesthetic, but they also had flowers, they had birds, shapes, all sorts of cool stuff. I'm having some trouble getting it out of the package. There we go. So that was pretty sticky. It is a silicone mold, so it's flexible, which should make it easy to pop the shapes out. And then they sell their sticks there. I imagine regular glue sticks would work as well, but again, going steampunk, so I wanted metallic ones. This big bag was $10.99 normally, but I had a 40% off coupon that I used on it, which made it quite a bit more reasonable. The molds, I believe, were $6 or $7 a piece. So in the future, I will probably be using coupons on those as well. All right, so there were 16 sticks in this bag, 8 gold, 8 silver. They did have other colors there too. They had just plain white ones that it says you can paint them, so that's kind of cool. And then they also had other solid colors as well. The metallic ones were a little more expensive than the rest. Here is a regular size mini glue stick, and here is one of the Mod Podge melt sticks. So it looks like you get maybe 2.5 to 3 times the length. Yeah, it looks like about 2.5 times the size of a normal mini glue stick. So the value actually isn't that bad. And same diameter. If you have a stick in your gun already, it's probably not going to come out. It's probably been melted in there somewhat. So I'm just letting this heat up right now, and when it warms up, I should be able to remove the regular glue stick. My hot glue gun has warmed up, and it is important to make sure you use a high temp glue gun according to this, and it is the mini size. So now it allowed me to remove my stick that was already in there. And then we'll put the new one in instead. And then obviously I'm going to have some excess of the clear in there, so I'm going to want to melt that out of there to make sure that when I make my mold, that I don't have any clear in there. I probably could have tested and seen if the regular glue worked. Let me see if I've got enough regular glue in there still to do one. According to the directions, you want to start in the center of your design and then work your way outward. If you have any excess after you remove it from the mold, it says to trim it off. So this is, I can see why they want you to use a mini glue gun. These are kind of small. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do all of my regular glue stick in there. I didn't think of it until after the fact, but I'll try again later. So now I'm, as you can see, to the gold. So starting in the middle of my designs, I'm just gonna go ahead and fill everything with the Mod Podge mini melt. So this is really kind of cool. I imagine you could use these molds with other mediums as well, like possibly plaster. I think the silicone's pretty resilient. And so far it's looking pretty messy, but you have to remember the side you're going to see is the side that's facing downward. So I did a couple of gears. Let's try doing this small key. I'm not sure if I need to be pushing down more or not, but we'll test this and see how it turns out. And then let's do the really detailed clock. Whoops, got to start in the middle. I'm kind of using the glue gun and pushing down on this one because I really feel like this one's going to need it to really push in there to pick up the detail. And this is eating up the mini melt stick fairly quickly. So that's another reason I would like to find out if regular glue sticks would work as well, and if you could paint them. But like I said, their plain white sticks were cheaper than the metallics. Okay, hopefully it's all pushing into the mold fairly well. I'm a little skeptical about how much detail it's going to pick up, but then again, that could also be user error, because this is my first time doing this. So, got that all in there. I'm going to let it sit for the 10 minutes that it says to, and then we'll see what they look like when I pop them out of the mold. It has now been 10 minutes, so let's see how my first attempt at these went. I did set a timer because I do tend to get impatient. So let's start with the big one. Okay, so I think I needed to press it in there more. You can actually see I've got little gaps showing through it too. So this, I would say, was my fault for not having a very precise image, but I believe it would work, and I would take another stab at it. This was the most detailed one. Let's try some of the simpler ones. And they come out of the mold really easily. I like this. Okay, my key turned out a lot better, and then like it said, just use some scissors to trim up the edges, or maybe an X-Acto knife would work a little better since there are some very fine details in there, but that's pretty cute. And then we've got my couple of gears. Again, everything just pops out of here so easily. I do like the flexible silicone molds a lot. All right, so we've got that gear, and then we've got the one that I tried doing with partial clear plastic. I'm going to clean these up a bit and show you what they look like once they're cleaned up. And then I'm also, maybe I'll try doing another one now that I know what to expect. This is my second attempt right now, and I'm working much slower, and what I actually did was I put a layer down in the bottom, not trying to worry about filling the mold all the way first, and then I went back over it and did another layer. And what I'm finding is, like, if you can see what I'm doing is I got the glue on top of these little parts that are supposed to be sticking out. So instead of having to worry about cutting these center parts of the gear out, I'm using my glue gun, and the heat is enough to just melt the glue that is on these center parts, and I'm just shoving it off the raised parts and down into the crevices. So this should end up much cleaner than before. And also working slower seemed to help, because it allowed the glue gun to stay hotter. I wasn't just trying to press the glue through quickly this time, so it gave it a chance to heat the next section of the glue stick in there before extruding it. So I just cleaned up this gear a bit, and then I've got to let it sit for the 10 minutes again and cool, but hopefully this batch turns out more detailed than the last batch. And I did those 4 pieces before, and then I did these 3 pieces, and as you can see, my glue stick is almost gone. So they don't last a particularly long time, but it does depend on the size of the piece you're doing. Like this one up here obviously ate up a lot more glue than one of these little gears or the tiny key. Now I'm popping out my second set, which I was a lot more careful on and was slower about filling. So these aren't trimmed yet, and we're going to compare them to my first attempt. So a little bit cleaner. I did already trim these, and you can see that you can tell, like, I got the glue in there a lot better than this one. It has a lot smoother top to it than this does. So there's first one, and then this was the one that I went through with the glue gun and tried to clean up as much of this as possible. And I was having a really hard time getting a blade into my first attempt to clean it up, so being more careful, I have a lot less to remove, and that should be a lot easier. So I'm much happier with the result on the second go. Then we've got the key, and the key on the first one turned out fairly well, but again, I tried to be more careful about having the excess, so I'd have less to clean up. So there's my second attempt at the key compared to the first one, which has already been cleared up, but it it looks like I got a little more definition on that as well. And then the real test is going to be that clock face because it is super detailed. So, oh, I can already tell that turned out a lot better than my first attempt. First attempt, as you can tell, I didn't get it in the mold very well. So take your time when you fill the mold. And like I said, I just did a thin layer first to get all the most recessed areas. And then after that was in there, I went back and did another layer on top. So, you know, don't try to just fill it all the way to the highest edge off the bat. Start with your lowest areas, give your glue gun time to reheat and really melt it in there. And then afterwards, take your glue gun and clean up all the excess glue and push it back into the mold and away from any areas that shouldn't have glue in them. And you'll have a lot more success. There's attempt 1 on the left, attempt 2 on the right. As you can see, by working as cleanly as you can and being as precise as you can and taking your time, they're going to look a lot better. There's a lot less cleanup to do at the end. You're going to pick up a lot more detail if you take your time than what you would have if you try to rush through it. And then not having as much to clean out of the center, I could not get my knife through that. It was stretching when I was trying to cut it. So cleaning up as I worked with the glue gun made that a lot easier. It was a lot less to try to cut out of there. I tried the mold using a regular hot glue stick and it did work. However, it had a lot more strings coming off of it and it was a lot more difficult to get it to stay in the mold. It was like gummier and it didn't want to like stay in place. I think it just heats up a lot more. So you can do that, but it is going to give you a little messier end result. You can see I have a lot of little bits and ends even after trimming it, compared to, say, my gear made with the Mod Melt Stick. So keep that in mind, but if you're in a pinch, you could definitely use it, or maybe depending on the shape, you'll have better results. So I'm gonna paint these really quick to see how that works out. For my first piece, I'm actually going to try painting it with nail polish first, rather than using acrylic paints, but I will try acrylic paints as well. This is a higher end nail polish I'm using, so hopefully I'll only have to go over it once. And on this, I just want to highlight, oops, I've already messed that up. Be careful, the nail polish is rather runny. But I'm going to try to just highlight the cogs and the numbers. This is not working so well for picking up detail. It really wants to run down the sides. Unfortunately, I couldn't rinse it all off in time, so change of plans. I'm going to paint over the whole thing and just rinse it off again. And hopefully it will do it in reverse. Like all the nail polish will stay in the crevices and it will take it off the raised bits. So we can salvage this yet. Learning experience. This is my first time doing this is in this video, so you get to learn from my mistakes. So I'm just brushing that on very quickly because I want to be able to get it to my running water and rinse it off, and we'll see what happens with this. I now have a very interesting effect to it. Not exactly what I was going for, but it does look kind of antiqued. So we're still going to salvage this by hand painting with the acrylic paint, and let's see how that goes. So I'm going to try to dry brush it, so get a little bit of paint on my brush and then wipe the excess off on the paper towel and just very, very lightly do what I was trying to do with the paint, with the nail polish. So you can see this is going a little bit better. Also having a more precise brush I think is helping with this. And this is just regular old acrylic paint from the craft store. Buy it for like $2 for a bottle of it. There we go. It's looking better. If I would have made it a little clearer, I think the numbers here would have picked up the paint a little better. But overall, not bad. I think you could get more detail with your paints if you were to prime these first, and then of course seal them when you're finished so that they'll hold up and be more durable.
You could turn this into just about anything, a magnet, piece of jewelry, decoration on a gift, maybe glue it to some sort of trinket or keepsake box. It's just a really cute embellishment. I'm going to try painting one of the hot glue made ones next. All right, just fixing some of my little mistakes on here. I'm also noticing with the ones done from the hot glue, you can see through them. So if you are going to paint the hot glue ones, I would prime them. Honestly, I would prime even the Mod Podge sticks, just so you have a good base.
Thus ends my first experience with Mod Podge melts and their molds. Going away from this, I would say number one, make sure that you work in layers. Make your first layer get in all those crevices, and then worry about building up your height in the second layer. Number two, if you're going to paint them, make sure you use a spray primer first. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to hold the paint very well, and I would also highly recommend sealing them afterward, or just don't paint them at all. Number three, the Mod melts definitely work better than a standard glue stick. They were easier to work with, and their opaqueness also seemed to hold the paint better than the transparent glue sticks do. I hope this video was helpful to you, or maybe you just discovered something new like I did. I hope you'll watch my next video. Thank you for watching this one.